At our school, we incorporate within our literacy program the Jolly Phonics program. The aim of Jolly Phonics is to teach children how to read and how to write. It is done with a set of 7 books. Each book focuses on a set of letters and sounds. It does not focus only on the sounds of the 26 letters of the alphabet, but all 42 sounds of the English language. Example, Book 1 focuses on the sounds of S-A-T-I-P-N. Each sound has its own story. I take names of my students and I incorporate those into the characters of the story. Once we have told the story, we pick out words that begin with the sound of the letter that we're focusing on. Once we have picked out all the pictures and the words that begin with that sound, then I'll have props that actually incorporate into the story. And then the students would act out the sound or the action for that particular sound and that letter. For example, sound T. The children play a game of tennis in the garden. They hit the ball with the racket. T, t. Their friends turn their heads from side to side as they watch. T, t, t. So I would call on Timothy, and this might be Amaya. So I would say, Timothy decided he wanted to play a game of tennis. He has one tennis racket, Amaya has the other tennis racket, and they would just hit the ball back and forth to each other. As Timothy hits the tennis ball, he says, t. And then as Amaya hits the tennis ball, she says, t. So the students get to practice the t, t, t sound as they actually play a game of tennis. Then we would go through and identify the words that have the t sound in them. A student would come up and they would say, I see a picture of a tent. So they would come up and point to tent. We would also look at the top to see if tent is actually a word on the page. If not, we would sound it out and see where we hear the t sound at the beginning or at the middle or at the end of the word. They might say that this is a cat or this is a kitten. These are his feet. Then we would go to the words at the top of the page and we would sound them out. T, I, n. 10. We would have to explain that because they would automatically think the number 10. We would go through and talk about aluminum cans. Some mailboxes are made of tin, and then the tennis rackets sometimes are made of tin. Cats, cats. And then we would talk about the fact that cats has the t in it, but it also ends in s, meaning that there's more than one cat, and we will point to all of the cats. Therefore, we have found the t sound in the words. We found pictures that have the t sound, and we have incorporated the t sound with a game of tennis. This is the story for the p sound made by the letter P. The story would be, Johnny had a birthday party. They had party games. He had a cake. It's the color pink in the shape of a pig. When it was time to blow out the candles on the cake, Timmy had to take a big breath. And when he blew out the candle on the cake, he would make the p sound. So Timmy took a big breath and he blew on the candle and he said, p. It didn't go out the first time. So he said again, p. And I would ask what sound he's making. And then all of the students would come up and blow on the candle and make the p sound. The candles that we have are magic relighting candles. So as each student comes up and does the sound to blow out the candle would relight, which would give each student more than one opportunity to practice making the sound. Once they have made the p sound, we would go back through the story and we would locate different things that have the p sound, and then we'll come through and we'll sound out each word. Sp, in, spin. What would spin here? The top, top. We would discuss the fact that the p sound is at the beginning of puff. It is at the beginning and the end of pop. And then the children would come up and they take their fingers and they trace the letter P. And as they trace the letter P, they have to say the p sound. This will be reproduced for each student. It reinforces the letter and the action is printed here, and we would just practice the action again before they began to start practicing the letter. We would go through and read each word. Any words with the children are not familiar, then we would go over the meanings of those words. Then they would practice again writing the P's, focusing on the formation of the top and the middle and the bottom lines as they were to write the letters.